mask selected, click on selected mask. Next, I'm going to use the Refine Edge tool. If you're in an older version of Photoshop, you will have to do this manually. So you will have to paint over the hair like so that Photoshop could remove the green screen. In newer versions of Photoshop, 2021 and newer, you have this option called Refine Hair, where Photoshop will do it automatically. And let me actually show you what's going on behind the scenes. If you click on Show Edge, you can see that when I paint, Photoshop focuses on these specific areas to make the background removal. If I disable this, you can see that those areas were adjusted. And if I continue painting, Photoshop will, of course, continue adjusting those areas. But in Photoshop 2021 and newer, you don't have to do it by hand. Simply click on Refine Hair, and Photoshop will use artificial intelligence to find the hair in the image and paint it for you automatically. If Photoshop missed the spot, you can always paint those areas in. So in my case, Photoshop did a really good job. It might have missed a couple areas here on the edges, so I'll just help out Photoshop just a little bit by painting over these areas like so. But overall, it did a great job. So I'll uncheck Show Edge and you can see the result. And maybe I can paint on this area as well to remove the green from those hair strands. This is looking fantastic, so I'll press OK, and Photoshop makes that adjustment. Now it's time to fine tune this result, and we're going to use an adjustment layer to remove the green. So I'm going to go into the new adjustment layer icon and select Hue and Saturation. From the Hue and Saturation adjustment layer, we can shift the hues of this green to something else so that they're not noticeable. I'm going to click on this icon to clip it to the layer below so that this adjustment layer only affects our model layer. I'll reset it, and from the master dropdown, I'll select greens. From here, I can decrease the saturation so that it's obvious when I'm targeting the greens on this image. It looks like the default settings didn't quite get the green on this green screen, so I can click and drag on these sliders to add these shades of green. And you can see that the green disappears, which is exactly what I want. Next, I'm going to increase the saturation again. You don't have to go back to 0 as long as you have some saturation. And I'll change the green edges to a different color by dragging on the hue slider until I find the hue that more or less matches her hair color. It looks like I was a little heavy-handed with these sliders, so let me just click and drag this over to the right to make sure that I'm only selecting those greens and not her skin tone or anything else. And just keep fine-tuning the hue slider until you get something that looks like this, before and after. I think it's looking great. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next, I'm going to show you how to fix the hair strands. But before I do that, I'm going to disable the color fill layer, and we're going to paint in areas that Photoshop missed, like the top of her head here. So I'll select the layer mask, and I'm going to paint with white to reveal. I'm going to tap on the right bracket key to increase my brush size and just paint over these areas. And also it looks like Photoshop missed a bit of her hair. And the reason that we did the hue and saturation adjustment layer is so that if we go over the line, that's okay. You can still see some of that brown and it doesn't look green. So it gives us a little more flexibility. So what I'm doing now is just making sure that all these highlights that Photoshop hid from her hair are showing again. So I'm painting with white on the layer mask to reveal those highlights. And obviously you can spend a bit more time in your image fine-tuning these details. But in this case, this is good enough. Next, let's bring back the flyaway hair that we lost through the masking process. We'll create a new layer for that, and I'll call this layer Hair. And I'll press Ctrl-Alt-G on Windows, Command-Option-G on the Mac to clip it to the layer below. And what I'll do is hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, with the brush tool selected to temporarily enable the eyedropper tool, and I can select one of the darker colors found in her hair, and I can paint over the mask edge to reveal these flyaway hairs. And I'll increase my brush size by tapping on the right bracket key on the keyboard, and I'll continue painting. As you can see, Photoshop is doing a fantastic job. If you accidentally paint inside the image, that's okay. You can erase by holding the tilde key. That's the key below the escape key to the left of the number 1 in North American keyboards. And you can click and drag to erase. Or you can select the eraser tool from the toolbar, of course. But continue painting over the layer to get those details back in. And this is my result after spending just a few minutes fine-tuning the mask using the same techniques I showed you